And welcome back to another episode of ScavTalk, everyone. Today's episode is going to be a bit of a catch up from the previous weeks. As last week we had the infamous goats, the goat, the Baja that killed Tarkov. Uh, Half the audience just died of cringe, but nonetheless, we're gonna do a little bit of catch up on some of the things that we missed and kind of give our thoughts on a few things, starting with Nikita's giant mega thread Q&A. Boy, that was a spicy one.
Exactly. It was it was a pretty crazy time actually with Reddit stuff, because he just randomly hijacked someone's thread. Did you see how it all started? Because there was somebody's thread, and he basically just turned up and was just like, "I'm gonna live in here now," and just hijacked this thread. And I actually can't remember what the original comment was that he replied to. He was just like, "Yes, this is now my new home." And I think after a while, he was like, "Maybe I should start my own one."
Yeah.
So that's when he started his own one and then was answering stuff. And he was answering them in waves of, every day was like answering new things. And it was pretty interesting. I can't remember, was this before this was after the cheaters notice that he put out, right? I think. I actually can't remember at this point. It's like getting a bit fuzzy, but I thought that it was maybe after.
They posted the first ban wave and then
he wrote that paragraph, right? I think he wrote something.
I want to say the paragraph came first and then the
Reddit stuff.
Q&A.
I think so.
I could be wrong. Because I think that was that was kind of like the criticism is like the Go video came out, there was all the everyone reacted to it, and then somewhere in between BSG kind of addressed it on the Reddit post, and he kind of gave that same bullet points that we've kind of already seen, and people also reacted to that, so it felt like there's a lot of like reacting going on.
Yeah, it kind of got extra bad. I think I appreciate him saying something, but I think then a lot of people were like reading through it and then they're like, "Huh, this doesn't like really say anything." And it's tricky, right? Because it's like, what can you even say? Just like, yeah, we're working on it. Like it's
right.
Yeah, it's hard to say anymore. And like he did give some more details, but even still, it's like you just have to trust that they're looking at it. I do think he said somewhere that it focused the mind a little bit, because it's an ongoing battle, and so you slowly lose momentum on these things, and then you need to kind of like reprioritize and refocus on stuff, which is fine. But I think the most positive part of that was then Nikita's proper thread where he was talking about loads of different things. People were giving lots of suggestions and criticism and whatever, and he was responding to tons of people. Are you thinking of the post I'm thinking about?
Dude, yeah, I just love the fact that a CEO told someone to go fuck themselves.
It was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. I wish I had the direct quote in front of me now, but where he was just like, "Dude, F off, go take a walk or something." I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, it was good. But yeah, there was lots of interesting things that he was talking about. I think there was actually another thread that I saw a bit later, which was kind of like the copium rehabilitation thread about like things that and then this is kind of just to frame the discussion, right? Because it was like things that have been discussed like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and Nikita was just like, yes, planned, yes, definitely, yes, this is coming, right? And like things that still aren't there, things that are still broken, that kind of thing. It was like a good sort of 25% to like, it was actually kind of nice in some ways to read through those old posts from 3 years ago and be like, oh yeah, that's fixed and that's fixed, and these things are actually like a lot of this stuff did get resolved. But then to have 25 to 50% of them sort of outstanding still all this time later, it was, I don't know, it was a mixed blessing. I didn't find it was all bad necessarily, but okay, so that's the context, right? It's just like Nikita kind of talks in the moment about what he has planned, but things change and stuff sometimes gets more complicated and things get dropped and priorities get adjusted and features move and whatever. So I mean, where to? Yeah, sorry, what were you gonna say? We'll dive in.
This is like the thing that I think causes a lot of this is it's like they basically say, "Trust us, bro," and it's sort of like they give out these little, you know what I mean? Like we've seen, to like contrast it to the Cycle Frontier, for example, music example, and they've done like I think even I want to say prior to season 3, but I know in season 3 because I watched one of Goat's Follows video, and they just have like this big main news topic on their website. Like it's not in an obscure Reddit post, 3 years ago, but it like details out some of the things they're doing. You know what I mean? It's like it's a hub. They're using their main website to like drive people there to see and like update people on what's going on. You know what I mean? That's kind of the thing I think BSG has done is the inverse, where it's just like, yeah, well, we're gonna get it. Just trust us. You'll see eventually, And they've been doing that so many times that it's like it's so hard for us to trust that because, yeah, there has been progress in different areas when he said these things, but there's how many things of feature wise have Nikita said it's coming? Like is over the years, I would love to see, which we'll get into, but I think they are sort of switching gears to that, seeing all the people that have been, I don't know if they've been promoted or they've gotten employed or whatever the case, but there seems like a lot more people have been hired, I guess, to be sort of that community relationships, and I hope that communication level gets improved because, yeah, I think it's a problem the way it's being handled in the past, and
Yeah, I think that's fair, and not to derail too much from the meat of like what we were just about to talk about, but I do think that's true, and I think some of this stuff has maybe led to them pulling back on some of the community support that they've been using up until now. Like the content creator Sherpa, which they've got rid of, and relying so much on emissaries and people like that to try and spread news, like the sort of the volunteer side of Tarkov, when one peg in particular was calling for them to make an actual announcement, not just have it like fed through the volunteer network. And I think it was Walker who's actually been taken in by BSG as now a new community kind of manager person. So there's a few people, right? So he's kind of like come from that side and then moved actually into official BSG-ness, which I didn't really think that was. I've never seen anybody do that, so I was quite surprised, and I thought that was really cool. And I do think it makes sense to have more official outreach, if that makes sense, rather than this kind of unofficial one. I mean, yeah, BSG's communication has always been very scatty. It really depends on like where you look, and like some stuff's only been on Instagram, one thing's on Telegram only, and one thing's on Twitter, and then there's another post from Nikita here, and then there's something that's come out on the website, and it's like it's so random that it's quite hard to find the information. But that's kind of always the way that they've worked, because they sort of take the same approach with their game updates as they do with their lore, which is quite, which is like, it's fine for lore, but for the game updates themselves, it's not as good. But I think that they're looking to improve this. Honestly, I think we're starting to see some stuff come from that, and there's actually a little bit about that I'll talk about later on, which is sort of related at least. But yeah, is there anything in particular in the Reddit thread that caught your eye that you want to talk about first?
Your post.
My post. Okay, we'll talk about my post. We'll indulge me and talk about my post in particular. I've talked about it quite a bit anyway on in one of like another video and on my stream and stuff. So most people are probably aware. But I made a post on that Reddit thread about the turn rates because I think it was because I was literally like just finishing off a video about turn rates, as I had dubbed it, the worst feature in Tarkov. And obviously I get the usual comments of people being like, no, dude, they've got to sort out the cheaters first. And it's just like, cheaters is not a feature, right? It's not like that was, well, it kind of is. But, it was more along the lines, like the argument was along the lines of like, this is specifically built into the game like this on purpose, and I think it's crap. Was kind of the way that I'd sort of phrased it, right? Like there's various things that are sort of unintended bugs and whatever that need fixing. But this specifically is in there by design, and I fundamentally disagree with the design choice, which was more what that was about.
And it could have been a placeholder, but it's just like, what is it actually adding? Like, I don't know. It just exactly. I just really don't. You know how I feel about it. I hate it.
I know, and I think it's one of those things where when you sit down in 2013 or whatever, and you're planning to make a hardcore military simulator game, and you go, when people are wearing heavy armor, you want them to feel cumbersome and really sluggish, and like, they're going to turn slower, and it does, it actually does do that job in the game. It's just the problem is that feeling then stops you from being able to shoot people, because the sluggish feeling is directly connected to your aim point. And we talked about other solutions to it previously, right? But anyway, he then said, and I tried to lay out the argument like coherently and saying like, this is why it's bad for new players, this is why it's bad for experienced players, and this is why it doesn't do what you intended it to do, and it should just be gotten rid of. And there's other mechanics that you have, like move speed and ergo, which make the gun feel sluggish and it makes the character feel sluggish. It's already doing the job. You don't need to have this extra thing which then like messes with your muscle memory, right? It's already a gamey mechanic, so whatever. And he basically said like, it was actually quite funny because I was just about to post my video, the worst feature in Tarkov, and he was like, it's already been reduced twice, and it's going to be, and then he replied again like, oh, it's going to be removed in the future. And I was like, it's only been reduced once. And then like Logical Solutions Twitter popped up on my thing. It's just like all the turn rates slashed, and I was like, post the video immediately, because I was like, the video's now out of date. Like, it was going out that same day anyway, but I was like, the video's now suddenly out of date. So I just like posted it and then just amended the description and the comment, just being like, here's the update, because I was like, it was literally all ready to go. I was like, I can't change it. Like, I can't change it without spending like a day, like refactoring everything, re-uploading it. Like my bandwidth won't take that. It's going to take me 4 hours to upload the damn thing. So I was like, no, it's just getting posted. And I'm kind of working on like a semi follow-up to it now, just like a little addendum almost. But I thought that was cool. I don't know whether, I mean, presumably they hadn't had that on the cards before. You must imagine, right? Like, surely they didn't. And because they said that about some things, but surely they just like responded to that and went, okay, yeah, that sounds good. We'll cut it.
Yeah, I mean, the only like, it's kind of frustrating in some ways because, well, like, first off, as you said, right, it's the frustrating part about it is that it messes with your sensitivity, your muscle memory. And if you really wanted to, you can, correct that by doing a bunch of maths, essentially, and you can change your sensitivity. But as you also point out, like, there's the ergo stuff that it visually, it gives me that feedback loop where I visually see that my SVDS is coming up slowly, but it doesn't hinder my ability to like move my mouse at the same speed, relative to, what I mean? Like, it doesn't mess with the gamer side of me, the input. Like,
I think it's because you can't feel the turn rate, right? Like, you're in the eyes of your character and you can't see the armor or anything. Whereas like with the gun, you can see it coming up. Like, you can see the sluggishness of the weapon. That kind of like gives you that feeling because you see it on screen. Whereas like you as a person, you're just like, I don't feel any different, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's fairly, I would say so. I mean,
and like with movement too, right? So you
even
feel
if
your character moving slower.
See my armor though, from like the size as Buffy, it's still like directly changing my, you know what I mean? Like, and this is why when we first talked about this weeks ago, I was like, what they could do is some sort of like, what's it called? It's
the free, what's it called?
Like
not
free
the free
aim.
look, but
and that way, I can visually see my gun's turn rate moving. I mean, there's already like a little bit of that in Tarkov, like very little, but it's not that pronounced, and it's not actually disconnected from your. I mean, it is, but I guess it's not that pronounced. But anyways, they, something like that, I would even be fine with. Just don't change my sensitivity, man. It's just like FPS 101. So I'm like, yay, he said that, but the question rises in my mind is like, why couldn't they just remove it, Giga?
I know.
Like, why?
I know.
Like, maybe there's a legitimate reason. If they set the values to 0 or whatever, it breaks the game. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. But it's just like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I don't know why.
It's kind of annoying. It is kind of annoying that it's been left the way that it has. And I almost feel like maybe he doesn't want to get rid of it completely just because he kind of still likes it.
That's what I mean. It's like, this is the frustrating part, because he was like, at first it's like he said, yes, we're going to remove it. And then he said, but for now, we're going to take it by 2x, So it's almost like he affirmed that he agrees with you, you know, that like, yeah, this makes sense, but I'm only going to reduce it by 2.5, which then makes me think that this is like all for the sake of like pacifying the player base. You know what I mean? And that's what really bothers me is like, where's the, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean,
you want this feature or not? Like, you know, if you really want it, like, just keep it the way it was. You know, just say no and then move on. Almost, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, the thing that he went halfsies on it just makes me uneasy. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like I said, there could be a super legitimate reason why he can't put the 0 or whatever the case may be. You know.
That's the thing. It's like if there was a technical reason, you think, oh, just put -1 on everything or something. You know what I mean? On everything, so that it all feels the same. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, I still think it's still a pretty big win. I think a lot of people are happy about the way that it went. I was looking at it again today, and yeah, I'm going to put something a bit more formal out about it. Probably Wednesday. And but I mean, when you look at it, for the most part, most people no longer have to worry about it at all, because bags go up to basically 4 at worst, helmets go up to pretty much 3 at worst, and armors go up to 10 at worst. But that's only if you're wearing like the biggest armor in the game. So you have to try quite hard. The place where it's still kind of screwy is when you're looking at helmet like add-on pieces. Some of them were tweaked, but they're all still pretty high, and I don't really know whether that's like intended or not. Like some of them were changed, but things like if you wear face shields in general, face shields will still mess you to like the tune of 8% a lot of the time. You can actually still engineer a situation. I actually looked at it and was just like, oh dear. You can still engineer a situation with the Vulcan and the Zabralo where you can get -30% turn rate. It is possible. You have to do like a very specific, you know, the Vulcan with the face shield, with the Zabralo, then with like the Pilgrim backpack. It's like the worst possible case that you can do. So it's still possible, but like almost everything now, almost all kits pretty much sit somewhere around 4 to sort of 6 to 8-ish, like that. If you're just you know, running a normal kit,
you can't. Oh man, that's like any percentage is just bad. You know what I mean?
It is, like, but it does feel better actually. It does feel better.
I mean, unless you're saying that you can consistently get 8% often, more frequently, but it's just like there's why have you ever played with mouse acceleration on?
Oh god, I have. It's awful.
Okay, it's effectively the same thing, Giga. Why would you want your sensitivity to change, you know, we'll say randomly, because you know you kill a guy, you put on his gear, now you're at -17. Yeah, it's just like
we're on the same page here, dude. Like I
know, and I'm such a stickler for this. You know what I mean? Like I that's why I'm literally gonna screen cap this and you know just like spam Nikita emails.
A3.
Like, I'm holding you accountable.
Yeah.
You said you were gonna remove it.
Indeed. So yeah, well, it's one step forward anyway. It's one step forward. I'm not sure if I would notice the difference between 1% sensitivity one way or the other. I'm not sure if I'd be able to tell. I haven't really tried. I haven't tested it. But anyway, because to the point that you made, now that the range is so much smaller, it is actually possible pretty easily to get the same number. You just have to pick a number if you want, and just stick to that. Because like a lot of them are all the same. Because before it was annoying because the ULAC was 5% and this, you know, the Ratnik was like 1 and the TCs were 2 and whatever. But now it's just like they're all 1 or 2, and the armors. It's really the armor. Like you just have to start from the armor and like work backwards from that. And the bags are between 0 and 3, and the helmets are between 0 and 2, really. So you can tick it up and down based on that. It's not too bad, and especially if you use one sort of type of armor. If it's using Karans and Bagaris and Gazelles and whatever, then you can usually get it to about the same place. So it does feel a bit better. It does feel better.
Yeah, and 1% difference isn't gonna be the thing that prevents you from getting better at the game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're sweating over 1% difference, there's probably bigger fish to fry.
Yes.
But at the same vein, you want to eliminate all of your variables, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's why it's such a big thing for me, is just
Yeah. Someone's mentioned to me, because I did actually mention about the red dots as well, because you told me about this, right, when you were looking into the sensitivity stuff. And I mentioned about that as well. He didn't address it. I haven't tested it since. Somebody mentioned that maybe it was they fiddled with them, but I don't actually know. I didn't actually go and look, so I can't confirm whether that was right or not. But I do actually want to go and look and see if the the wall through is actually different. Is it now the same as all the rest or not? Because they are clearly quite different, right? And I showed it in the video that they do have very different sensitivities. I was quite surprised when you told me, and when I went to look into it, I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely very, very true. The red dots have just got like random sensitivities on them. So
not only
anyway, we
that,
should probably move on to the Oh, sorry, yeah, go on. Last thing before we move on.
Not only that, but someone posted a Reddit post talking about the scopes. How what some of them will say 3x and they're like 2.8, and then another one will say 3x and it's like 3.2, and it's just like why why are these things random? You know what I mean? Like, where's the consistency? It's just, yeah, it's another thing.
Yep. So the next thing that there's like a load of random stuff that he talked about. Maybe we talk about the barters. So he said in that, because that's actually happened too. So it's like a change that you mentioned, and then that's actually occurred. So he said that they were going to remove barters, which meant player-to-player barters specifically. I think this was from Pessely's comment. Maybe did he tweet as well, or was it part of Reddit? I'm not sure where it came from. But,
I think that's what he tweeted about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he basically said player-to-player barters are a scam, or they're used for RMT. That's basically it. No one's really legitimately doing this except to go and get high value keys and whatever, because it's the only way to get half of these quest keys, because they're only up for stupid barters. And it's almost self-fulfilling then. Like, oh yeah, you have to do, but the barters are important because it's how you get the quest keys. Well, if you don't have the barters, then people have to put them up for cash, because if they're not going to use them, or they've got two or whatever, then they're not just going to let them sit in their inventory. They'd rather take the however many 100,000 rubles of money if they can't do the barters. So they said, okay, yeah, we'll get rid of the barters. And they did. And honestly, I think it's a massive win. I think it's great. So you've now got all the labs, like colored key cards, up on the flea market for between 20 to 90 million, depending on which one it is. You've got mark keys up there, and stuff's expensive, but it's fine, honestly. And they changed the values, the innate values, and of a lot of these things too, like the trait, Tarkov's internal working number. So it means the flea market fees are less. And I think they maybe adjusted the flea market a little bit as well to decrease some of the fees in general. So it's now not as punitive to put stuff up, which is cool. But I think it's really good. I actually quite like it, because it's not a piece of gear. It's just like, it's a card to get into a room for loot. I don't mind that it's, you can trade 16,000 broken AKs for a red key card through the rubles. Like, I don't actually mind that the ruble economy works for key cards. You know what I mean? Because that's always the issue we had with gear, is that you could just trade up to get a slick eventually just by grinding. And you can do that with like keys and things. But I feel like it's a choice, because there's so many of these things that you could potentially buy, and they're so expensive. They're like prohibitively expensive. And in that way, you're sort of empowered to say like, oh, I'd like to grind for this. And so then, you go for it. And it's I think it's quite engaging.
Yeah, I think keys are a bit different, because like gear is temporary, and I mean keys are as well, but they're a lot less temporary. Like you're pretty much guaranteed 40 uses on the ones that have 40 use, because you can't lose them, right? Unless you fumble the bag and hit discard in your container and you get head eyes by a Todd scav. It's totally never happened to me or anything. But so I think gear gets devalued a lot for that reason, and keys get highly valued because, I mean, KSP for reserve, there's like literally it's just a quest key. I mean, there's loot in there, but no one buys it for the loot. No one sells it for the loot. They sell it for the quests, and you get gatekeeps from it if you don't have it. That quest line's dead effectively. I'm not even sure if it leads to stuff, but it's really frustrating previously, because you would have to find tape key and do a barter trade. Which, by the way, guys, don't be lazy and look up stuff on the wiki. That's the moral of the story I'm about to tell. The story is, however, I found a tape key, and I was like, oh, I know, the blue tape key for Sandra's room. I know this thing's like, people ask a ton of stuff for it. What can I get for it? And I was like, oh, Streets is out. There's got to be some great Streets keys that people want. So I did one that was like, I don't know, it said something, and I didn't bother looking it up. Maybe it had the name of the building that's on the wiki that I was looking at that for this quest. And it's the one use key to the
Oh no.
Yeah. I didn't know that it spawns, like it has a hard spawn or chance.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I got scammed. Imagine that. Imagine getting scammed on the market. But
using player-to-player barters. Who knew?
I know, it's amazing. So yeah. And I, part of me well, let me jump back to the keys thing. I'm glad that they made the taxes more reasonable. Like as you said, I don't really have a problem with someone paying, trading up 100,000 AKs, broken AKs for a key card, because that's a really long grind, but it's something you can slowly work at. Whereas like back in the days you could buy slicks at the market, it was literally just like one raid, and you bought a slick because they weren't really priced that high. They were like maybe at most $500,000, but at the start,
that was even end of wipe. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the start, they were way cheaper. They were like 200, 300K, which was just like, yes, obviously, like, why would I, if you're confident, it's just like, why would you not do this? But even then, you do one scav raid. Anyways. So I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit different. And then with the, what was I going to say next? Fuck.
Colored keys are cool.
Yeah.
Colored keys are cool.
Oh, I am a little bit sad that player-to-player trader with, like, you just can't, it's literally impossible to trade 2 items of players. Like,
basically.
And I think that's a detriment of the trading system as a whole. Like, the UI is just god awful. It's like, you have to specifically put up items you want to like, if I have, okay, let's say I have the marked key, but I'm willing to get some good offers. Like, if you offer me 15 intels, then yeah, but I can't put up marked room key 15 intels and put up marked room key in another offer. You know what I mean? Like if someone could make me offers, a much more like barter auction type of thing. I'm thinking of like what's that game? I mean, I'm sure RuneScape has this, but Darker and Darker has like a very scuffed chat message system, and like you get in a trade and then they put items like, do you like this item? What about these items? They're like, yes. Yeah. But there's something like that existed, I'd be fine. But as it stood, it was literally scams and asking for the most rarest items, and then there was like you could find some decent deals on there, but you had to really scour the market. It just wasn't great. So I'm again, like, half of it I like it, half of it I kind of wish there was something better in place. Because it's just kind of weird. Like, but cash rules also, it really doesn't matter now. It's kind of fixed the problem in of itself. Like, if I find a red key card and I sell it for 100 million rubles, I can buy anything off the market. You know what I mean? That's not banned. So like, it kind of doesn't really matter. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, don't necessarily like the principle of it, but the practicalities of it are actually all right.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is cool. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I kind of agree. There was I don't even know if it's worth talking about really, but there was a huge post on there, which I think it's notable. There's a huge post from a user called Fine Wolf. I have no idea whether any of it is actually legit or not, but it was all talking about security and all sorts of things. Right? There was it was an enormous post, and Nikita basically was just like, yes, I forwarded it to the guys. And lots of people were talking about this post because it did seem like they knew what they were talking about, at least. And there's like lots of good ideas for how to fix stuff and make things better and blah blah blah, which was pretty cool. There's like there was quite a bit of that, which I thought was quite neat. Because obviously it was like a hot topic about how to stop this stuff from happening. I do think that there was at one point where Nikita said that they were rolling out a bunch of like anti-cheat things in general, and that they had like some more ideas of what to do, because I think it's one of the surprising things, and somebody said quite rightly about this, that sending all the information to everyone is just the easiest, like most naive way of doing stuff, which is just, you don't have to do any like extra work to like cut out info or whatever, which is why it was done like that to begin with. But it's like, why do we send each other our KDs? Like, why are all the items sent to all the players in bags and things before looting and whatever, right? It's like, yeah, obviously you actually have to then go back and forth with the, I don't know, wherever it is that stores the information about like what the items are, and like, unobfuscate those as you uncover those like those containers and things. But it did sound like that there was some more updates coming on limiting information. At least they were going to try and do some of that, because that's like half of why it's so powerful, right? From looking at Goat's video, you could see everything. Like you could see what's in other people's secure containers and stuff. It's like not that information is not necessary to be transmitted between the different players. It really isn't.
Yeah.
And it's kind of insane that it is. So that'd be cool. I'm hoping some more stuff comes like that. And there was the tiny little update actually as well. There was a little. So they did like a big patch, and then they did a tiny little update afterwards. And I was like, what was that for? And Nikita did actually confirm that it was a cheat detection piece that came through. But it was like on a random Reddit thread that I just like stumbled into. And someone was like, what was this patch? He was like, yeah, cheat update. I was like, oh, okay. Nice to put it here, buried in like 15 different like nested threads or nested comments on Reddit. Quite funny.
Now I might be, misremembering something, but didn't Nikita or someone talk about? I want to say it was Nikita, but maybe it was in that Escape from Tarkov official thread. But didn't they say something like, "Hey, we're gonna implement a system where it'll tell you when the person that you reported got banned, gets banned"?
Yes, they did say that they're working on that.
Okay.
Yes, so you will get told if they got banned. And I guess you can kind of do that at the moment if you care and you remember who they are, and you can like just Control F the list, because they've been sending out these big Excel files of all the cheaters that they've banned. Which, I mean, I don't care really.
Yeah, but you played Dota 2 when they had the behavior score, right?
Yes.
And you know how good it feels to get a pop up being like a player you recently reported has been punished or something. Dude, it feels so good.
Yeah,
because it could be like 3 days since the incident. You come across a really toxic person, and you may not even remember it all that well, but it's like you get validated that you did a good thing.
Yeah.
And this is the part of the thing with the cheating is like, man, there's like a whole side of like player psychology, both on the cheating side and the people that are getting cheated on, that I think just like greatly improves the experience of cheaters, their existence,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope that, I don't know if this has been said anywhere, but I hope that they do implement insurance, like cheating insurance, like nothing
like
you pay for.
Like if you died or
yeah,
whatever.
like, the guy gets banned, it tracks the raid, it tracks the gear I lost, assuming they killed me, it just seems like a really gratuitous thing, like, hey, we're sorry you had a bad experience. Let us compensate you via the in-game.
Yeah, it's like giving someone, a discount voucher for next time or whatever when you have like a bad experience that, when the waiter,
this cheater ruined my game. Where's your manager?
Yep.
Go Karen on them.
When you had your main meal just like dropped in your lap by the serving staff or whatever, and you get a voucher for next time.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like I had one time where we went to this restaurant and they dropped the napkin on the floor and then like brought it over. My wife's daughter, and she was like, "Oh, this is awful, right?" And so she complained to the restaurant, and so obviously we got like a bunch of vouchers, and we went back, and dude, it was excruciating. We got sat on the exact same table with the exact same member of staff who clearly knew that it was us that had complained. And then we ended up obviously paying for the meal with these vouchers that we'd got about complaining about them. It was like, it was like nails chalkboard. Like it's just like the whole, I was like, we can never return. We can never return to this restaurant. Honestly, it was painful to think about now. My toes are like curling thinking about it. It was awful.
Well, I wonder how they felt too, because they could have been the type that's like, oh, these dicks, whatever. Or they could have just been also like, these are the guys that I dropped the napkin and gave it back to them. I really miss,
Exactly. So what happened was you get your insurance, and you go back in, you get killed by the very same cheater with like a a one on the end of the name.
Imagine.
Imagine that. Imagine that. Oh man. Okay, so there was one really big thing that he said, which I'm not actually 100% certain the ramifications, but I do think it is really important. And he said no more big features until release.
Yeah,
They're
I think
basically
that's
really focused on releasing the game. That's actually a huge change.
huge.
Yeah. So I don't know what that means for all sorts of other stuff. Like they're working a lot on the things that need to be done, right? Audio and
Yeah,
networking and AI and all the rest of it, right?
and
And not putting in massive features, which is fine.
and to clarify, what I mean, I think you're saying this as well, and I kind of agree. Is by new features, he doesn't. I think what he means is, hey guys, I just decided I'm Nikita, and I'm going to add in helicopter extracts. I've never before mentioned this previously. We're adding it in,
Mm.
and it's just like, yeah. I mean, I think that's what you're saying. Am I correct in that?
I think so. I think so.
Because I think what he's saying
Um,
is all the previous thousands and thousands of things that I've said are coming. That's what's that's in, but I'm not saying any more new stuff.
I imagine that even some of the old stuff is not going to make it, personally, or at
Probably.
least I don't think we'll see any of it for a while.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure yet, but like, because I think the next, it will be interesting to see when we get something like the armor system, the armor plate hitbox thing, right? Which they've said is coming for ages,
Yeah.
and they said it's hard, like probably
Didn't
one
it?
of the closest newish features that
Yeah.
was coming.
Didn't it get delayed? Like
I
this
think
patch? I think
so.
it's supposed to come. Like
I think
something.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if we'll see it before 1.0. Honestly, I'm not sure.
Mm.
I feel like 1.0 might be closer than I don't know. I think it might be closer than
Did,
we think. I
didn't
think
he?
it might just
Did he say next year? Like the end of next year? It's supposed to be
maybe.
done.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure if they don't have a firm timeline, but yeah,
I mean, it's gonna be like 1.0 on paper, but like we all know, it's just still the
12 point.
beta that's still
Was it?
being developed. Like,
Yeah, just patch 0.13.1.0. It is great, guys.
yeah,
Don't worry,
yeah.
it's fine.
I mean, it's
Um,
fine. It's just that's what we live in. It's how games are made these days. But it's just
I mean, yeah, like it's an ongoing living beta test or whatever. Like it's not going to look much different to how it does now, right? It's
I
not like
can't
suddenly
imagine it
1.0 is
will.
going to come out and it's going to completely change. Like we see it piece by piece as they test stuff. So like it's
Right.
going to look a lot like that final version just before 1.0 comes out, surely. Otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Although they've got storyline quests and all this other stuff, but
I mean,
I don't
and
know.
unless they've been like they have like features ready to go that they're just like put inside the 1.0 bin. You know what I mean? And then like when 1.0 comes, they can like just dump all these features they have. But I mean, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, because can you imagine it would just fall over, right? There's gonna be so many problems if they dump loads of things in untested. Like we know
Yeah.
how these things go already, so I think it's an interesting one. No identification, no more identification. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
that's surprising. I mean, I also kind of like it, kind of dislike it. It's like I like the idea, like the concepts, but it is kind of just um it means I can get into raid faster. I don't, the
Yeah,
standard metagame of inspecting everything,
Mm.
middle mouse was just like super annoying.
No
Um,
woods on raid one, dude.
no woods on
You're gonna
raid
have to go
one.
in
I
and
know.
you're gonna have to go and get to level 2 yourself without having
Yeah,
to identify all the items.
that's fine.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny.
Yeah, it is.
Rip Jaeger on the first raid.
Yeah, it just. I don't know. I do kind of miss the finding a key, and you get excited because it's all like oh, it's got the shape of a marching key, and then you inspect it, and it's like checkpoint key or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I don't think it matters too much.
yeah.
Um, he did mention like there was a lot of stuff that was said in these threads, right? And people were talking about the recoil and about issues about the recoil and the first couple of shots flying up and stuff. And he did say that recoil was going to be changed or rebalanced or something.
Yeah, he said he was
I'm
going to
not
redo it.
sure.
I think.
Yeah, I don't know to what extent, honestly. Like
Yeah.
it was one of those things that I feel maybe is said rather than done.
Ah,
But
Giga. See, when you say stuff like that, it makes me further lean into this idea that it's all just like pacifying everyone. Like
I mean, look, there's an element of that. There's an element of that because everything
sure,
was literally on fire. So
sure.
so I kind of don't blame him too, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
That's why, like, okay, cautiously optimistic is how I would say, maybe even say, I would also say, readily pessimistic. I don't know.
I don't know. Either which way, it's probably the same.
Yeah.
It's probably the same.
So, like, a lot of the stuff looks really good and sounds really good, but, until we really see the fruits of it, it's kind of, I want to just temper my expectations here.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody did ask them about how so many bugs just like reappear, which I was kind of interested because I was like, I've always wondered this. They said, "Oh, do you just have like a terrible merging strategy for the various like strands?"
Oh, do you just suck at merging?
Do you just suck at it? And the answer is probably like it's probably not been managed that well and it's spiraled out of control. But it was quite funny. He said it's not a merging strategy. He said it's just a really, really complicated project with a lot of above the line solutions. New features can poke old evil code. It was like specifically what he wrote, which I thought was a really fun way of describing it. I was like, I understand exactly what you mean, even though it's not something that any English speaker would say. It's just, it's funny. Poke old evil code with a new feature. I loved it. I thought it was good. And then the last thing that I had on my list that he talked about, saying he was like, oh yeah, vaulting is coming 100%. Like they are actually going to add that. And there's a little bit about that I'm going to talk about in a minute as well. Which is kind of cool. And then yes, the changes that they did afterwards. There's like a whole bunch of other changes too. And for me, like the most important ones were like there's a shooter born in heaven going back to 100 meters. Catching outposts is now 8 people and removed from Kappa. This is just like random stuff. So we could talk about whatever in this list really, and anything that you've got too. Like people asked him about player count, and he said about 70 to 120,000 concurrent, which is actually pretty high. They changed Bitcoin, so it's 250k. The flea rep's been reworked, so now you have more slots. And then like today there was like loads of XP buffs on loads of random quests, and apparently they reduced the initial contact reaction for bosses by like 30%, so they don't just like instant aimbot you as well. So there's like a whole fun list of changes that have occurred. I mean, none of it is great. I mean, shooter born in heaven back to 100 meters, I never thought would happen. Honestly, like I thought that they were 125. I thought they were going to be dead set on that, but they put it back to 100. I don't think it was necessary to go all the way and put every single map there. Like you could have left like woods, lighthouse, shoreline, I suppose, at 125 if you really wanted to, and put maybe even reserve, honestly. But like it was customs and probably streets that really needed the 100. But like they've just put them all back to 100, and I think that's okay. It makes it like so much more doable. Which is cool. I'm still not tempted to do it really, but we'll see. We'll see as time goes on. We'll see. But yeah, I did think it was quite interesting him saying there was like so many people. And there was like other people saying like, oh, is the game dying, blah blah blah. And he was like, don't worry, the player numbers are basically the same. I mean, no one knows, right? It's like trust me, bro. So he's going to say that. He's got like a vested interest to make people not concerned about the game. But I'm sure it hasn't had like. There's a lot of noise, right? I'm sure the noise outweighs the actual impact. Like people, just, whatever, carry on
I would
playing.
think so as well.
Some people drop out, but some people will drop out at this point of life anyway. Right? It's like, what are we like?
If anything, you would have more of a reason to stop playing if you really cared about it. That type of stuff,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the other side of it is you could argue that they banned a bunch of cheaters, so the raids are empty because all the cheaters got banned, which is another funny match. Gosh, man, they've really been posting those 5,000 players bans. Why are my raids so empty, you guys? Oh, but seriously, looking at this mega list, I mean, everything looks like one giant what would you say? Making
fire kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, like, maybe downing the size of the butt plug to medium instead of extra large.
Yeah, especially things like flea rep. Changing flea reps, you get 3 slots at 7 rep, right? So you only need to make it to 7, you get 3. And at 30 rep, you get 4. 60, you get 5. 100, you get 6, etc., etc.
Do you start with 2?
Yeah.
Is that still the case? Do you now start with 3?
No, you start with 2. You get 3.
A lot sooner.
7 rep, yeah. So
Instead
I think before it was. I think it might even have been 20. I can't remember
Or
what it
maybe it
was
was
before.
30. No, I think it was a
Was it
30 and
30?
100.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was 30 actually. No, I think you're right.
It was annoying, dude. Like, I mean, you had to really, yeah, it was really annoying. I mean, another way of looking at it is a lot of rollback on, potentially bad decisions they made. It's just that, I don't know, just the timing of it all just puts everything into question. You know what I mean? It's like how genuine is. I'm not saying they have to, be like, oh my God, you guys, we made the biggest fail of the century. We made Shooterborn 125 meters. We're so sorry. I'm not saying they got to do that. But like the flea one, for example, it kind of makes sense because you've done so many changes to the flea market. Taxes are less. Like there was this argument that this is a good thing. Less people can sell stuff, so there's less money being circulated. It's harder to make money. It's slower to make money. It's probably a more accurate way of saying it. So I don't know. I just It's interesting too that they increased Bitcoin, but overall, it's hard. It's really hard to be like, I don't know. What do you say? It's like I'm glad that these changes come, but I'm still kind of waiting. I'm in a state where like I'm very like touch and go Tarkov. Like I want to see what the next patch is and like what happens there, and then if it's once it's like go for me, then it's just like and then I'm out. But
yeah, it's kind of that thing of, do they actually want to do this, or do they think they had to? Do they still believe in the old, restricting everybody's flea slots, plus making Shooterborn in Heaven suck, plus having everyone have horrible turn rates and all this stuff? Like, do they still believe in that fundamentally? And they just did this to make everyone happy? I'm not sure. I think it's probably a bit of both. The Bitcoin thing makes sense to me just because like a lot of people just weren't building the farm and it just wasn't really worth it. It just made the grind for it not kind of pointless. Like, you do it for completion, but not much
was it
else.
worth
like,
it?
Yeah, I mean they were only 100 and like they were really low, like 130k a coin or something. It was like super low,
Was
maybe
it
even less at one
really
point.
worth it? Is the key word there? Like it's still
Yeah,
worth doing, but it wasn't.
It was probably worth doing if you're doing the rest of the hideout because you're using fuel anyway. So
Okay.
and you need to craft these these big overnight things to get your M905 and stuff now. So you're incentivized to have the hideout burning fuel for long periods of time. So you may as well get it.
Wasn't as
I do
good as
think
it used to be, perhaps.
I mean, it's like it probably doesn't support the fuel cost on its own unless you've got it
Okay.
full kind of thing. Like a level 1, it probably doesn't even support the fuel cost. Like the one card in is like 40 hours, and then it's like 120k or whatever. You're like, damn, dude, like I can buy one metal fuel can for that, and it's actually no, not even.
Yeah.
They're like 160. So I can't remember. I think they take a day. So it doesn't even cover the cost. But it's like you may as well. Like it depends on what you're doing. Like I always do it just because they all share. And people always talk about this on like various things that I do. And every time I talk about the hideout, everyone's like, you need to include the fuel cost. And I'm just like, yeah, but it's shared. Like it's shared between all the modules. Like it depends on how much you're on. It depends on how much you cycle your craft. It depends on whether you're talking about an overnight one or not. Like depends on what your hideout skill is. Like there's so many factors that it's almost pointless to talk about.
Yeah.
It's either worth it or it isn't. And if it is, then you do all this stuff. If it isn't, then you just stop doing anything in the hideout. It's kind of binary.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, so the next thing, this is actually this actually doesn't really like flow that nicely. Maybe I'll talk about like my third thing now because that flows more nicely for this topic, and then go back to the other part that I wanted to talk about. I don't know. I'm not sure actually which way to do this. No, I'm going to talk about the other part first because I think it might be quicker. So there was a random meeting with a load of content creators and some community people from BSG, and it wasn't very well attended particularly. I think it's because it's kind of hard to like how do you like tell everybody to come to this meeting when it's not public and everyone's busy and there's not like the one place to tell people, which everybody knows about, like the infamous creator Discord or whatever. But like no one reads Discord because there's like 10,000 messages in there, and it just goes off constantly. So everyone just has everything muted. So I think that's maybe why like not that many people were there. But anyway, they're doing more outreach. I think maybe this thing has happened before. I was just like never privy to it previously, but they're doing like more, and this is kind of what we talked about before. They're doing more community work now, like with the community managers that actually work for BSG, talking to the community and to content creators, etc., etc. But anyway, it was a meeting, and there was a couple of points in that I haven't really seen it. People, like a couple of people have posted the list on Twitter, like Hayes and a couple of other guys posted the list on Twitter, but I've not really seen anyone talk about it particularly. And I think it's just because it wasn't that well attended. So there was like 5 points that they said we could share, and the first one was that they're working on this new kind of event thing. I'm not 100% sure exactly like how it's going to go down, but it's this thing called like Streamer Challenge, and it's got like prizes and stuff. It almost sounded like really hard quests, something like that. And they're going to like send out some like news about it at some point. I don't really know exactly how this is going to. It was a bit. The details were quite loose, but it was. How to say it? We'll see. It could be really cool and could be really fun and give sort of people something to do and people something to watch. I don't know whether there's gonna be like leaderboards or anything like that, but I think it could be cool, like entertainment at least for people to see, like guys having to do like random stuff that obviously you don't have to do as a normal player, but there's like weird content creator challenge going on. That combined with the fact that in-game events are actually going to start again soon, which is probably that's more important thing for most people, along with the Chronicles of Rigi, which is coming back, which is pretty neat. So we've got to be looking out for these in-game events. I have no idea what type or anything, but just that they're kind of on the horizon. And then I alluded to this before when we were talking about again the sort of community outreach thing, but they are planning on getting more devs to speak about the game and the stuff that they actually do, as a kind of like devcast type thing. Now they had these like ages ago.
Yeah, they did.
They're like really old ones. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just because they did it in the past, but it unfortunately because of their dialect. I don't know what you call it, but it's not like the most. It's just communication's hard for them, I guess, on maybe a technical level or whatever. But yeah, the fact that they speak Russian, English not their first language, it's already hard enough. Like I remember watching one, and it was okay. It's just I don't know. I'm glad, but I'm also like, we'll see.
Yeah. So we'll see, but it could be cool. I mean, I would almost prefer it just to be like subtitled. Honestly, I think it would just be better to just be translated and be subtitled.
Yeah, they really need someone that's like, speaks English, is very fluent, and can like
Axel.
Someone, but they can like just take, the BSG workflow, whatever, and like funnel it down and condense it down to this little like 3-minute video where the guy's like, "What's up, gamers? It's your boy from Battlestate Games. Whoa, you like this? We've been listening to you and your feedback, and we got you in this video. Number 1 feature, cheaters suck. Here's what we're gonna do. You know what I mean? Like something like this that's like the most broad stroke. It's not in like some obscure Reddit post somewhere. Something to like, and it's on the main page. Just like something people can point to and reference. That's so. Anyways, sorry for that extra dose of cringe in your daily life, but we'll see.
We've come to love it.
It could be something like that. It could be something like that. Devcast. It could be someone like that. Yeah. We'll see.
It could be kind of cool. We'll just have to see how it goes. The next point was, and I actually mentioned it before about vaulting coming, but like vaulting is actually coming, and the first iteration of vaulting.
It's confirmed again.
Yeah, but it's like actually coming like very soon. At least the first stage, which I mean is going to be a sigh of relief to everybody. The first stage of the vaulting mechanic is stepping over tiny little branches and shitty bits of rock and stuff so that you don't have to do a full jump. God damn, is that going to be good?
Yeah. We'll
So,
see.
because that's huge quality of life. Like, yeah, I don't know. As long as they can just, make it not a problem getting stuck on like bits on customs of like falling over wall or whatever, then it'll be great. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be cool. And then they just said there's going to be more news about Arena soon. Doesn't really tell us much because we kind of knew that already. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. It was a bit of an odd one. I mean, I haven't really seen anyone else talk about it. I'm not even sure if Nice Guy talked about it. I don't know. I think it's maybe because it's quite light on detail. But I think the vaulting thing and the in-game event starting soon is probably the most interesting part. And maybe the devcast.
Yeah.
Honestly. Who knows what the streamer challenge is going to be?
Yeah. Yeah, it is I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just so weird why they do it like this. Like, why not put this in package? I guess it's kind of like the Valve approach. Like, why, if someone's willing to do the work for you for free, why do it yourself?
Yeah, I don't.
Or why
really
even spend resources on it when, like, another thought could be, why spend the resources on it when we could spend it on finishing the game, which is a logical, like totally see the logic there.
It does seem an interesting approach. I'm still not sure how I feel about like the creator Discord. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is, right? Like that's the way they want to do it, apparently. But I do find it a little odd. I will say, just for the record, I do find it a bit strange.
Care to share? Spill the tea.
No, I just think it's weird, right? It's like I get that they want a line of communication with people that play the game more than anyone else and have specific feedback. That's okay. That's fine. But it's almost like I find the communication path going the other way a little bit weird, and then being like, "Oh, you can talk about these things here."
Right. We're gonna share this.
We're gonna share some random stuff with you. It's just like,
and feel free to share
put it on
as well.
Yeah, why don't you just put it on Twitter? Like I don't know why
it is.
We're being told that we can, or like we weren't asked to. Really, it was just like, oh yeah, you can talk about these things if you want to, kind of stuff. I guess they're not like super important, I suppose. But it was like they like specifically said these are the things that you can talk about. I don't know,
man. It is weird. It is.
I just accept it, I just accept it. But I find it a bit odd. Yeah, because if everybody can know, why didn't you just tell everybody?
Right. And like that's where it's like I don't want to assign bad, negative, intentions from them, but it's like one way of looking at it could be. We'll tell the streamers to tell it. That way we can't be held accountable for it because they said it. It's all hearsay. So like if things don't actually happen, like our hands are clean of it. I don't know how. Or
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It is weird. It is weird.
I do. Yeah, I wonder whether. Because we obviously like look at the Twitter feed a lot. Like I say, I see the content creator grouping, but not everybody even uses Twitter for a start, and not everybody follows Tarkov enough. Like it's been weirdly quiet on Tarkov Twitter over the past couple of days. I was talking about this on the stream today. Like I've been distracted with IRL stuff anyway, but every time like Twitter's basically stopped showing me Tarkov stuff because there hasn't really been anything going on that's got that much like retention or like viewership on Twitter. It's showing me all sorts of other things about everything exploding. Which like I've been reading those, so it's just like, oh, you want to know about all this stuff that's going wrong? I'm like, okay, so it's like stop showing me Tarkov content. So even the VSG tweet today about the quests, like it was my chat. It was just like, oh, they've changed a load of stuff, and I was like, oh, really? And it was like 5 hours ago. I was just like, I've been on Twitter since then. It just like didn't show it to me. So you can easily miss information if it's just put out there. So I do, maybe there's an angle to that. It's like, well, if everybody talks to their community about it, those are the people that actually care about what's coming next. There's a whole bunch of people that just play the game and don't really care. So maybe the people who are actively watching YouTube or going on stream or on following various people on Twitter, those are the people who actually care about it. I can sort of see a logic there, but
yeah, I mean that could be a marketing. So you yourself promoting it, you sort of send it out to these like multiple leaders of different tribes, and then they sort of like send it out. You know, it's a different strategy, I suppose.
I think the thing for me about it, okay, let's put it this way. It would have been completely fine to be like, yes, talk about these things. These are our like main talking points about like what's coming up. We're going to post a Twitter post about it. And here is the 5 things in the Twitter post. And if people want to like extra information or to elaborate on it or whatever, then you then talk about it. But it's the fact that like they've said nothing. And then the creators have gone away and like talked about it a bit here and there. Anyway, let's not dwell any further. On it. We'll see. I will try to bring as much information as I can from whatever bizarre inner circle this is, without getting myself cancelled. Because that's not going to help anybody, specifically me, in the least. You know,
it's interesting. I'll say that it's interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so I feel like I've dominated the airtime today, but I guess we'll move on to the next thing, which I guess like I'm actually like actively playing. If you're like not actively playing as much, then it kind of makes sense, I suppose.
Yep.
I'm not going to feel too guilty.
Don't.
What I was going to feed into before, so we were talking about the hideout and talking about fuel and stuff like that, which is why I was almost going to tangent over to this, which is about the 2 items that you need, the special items that you need. And I don't know if I can't remember if I mentioned this before, or that I was going to give it a good go to go and find them, because I think a lot of people, haven't, right? Because, okay, so let's start from the beginning. To get Intel Center Level 3,
yeah,
you need the far forward GPS amplifier. To get solar panels, you need the far forward current converter. Both of these items were available in high value tech spawns at the beginning of the wipe on various maps. After approximately 2 weeks, it seems, at the beginning of the wipe, it was restricted on all the other maps so that it only spawned on labs. So this is the main reason why most people don't have these things yet. And they're not critical, right? Like solar panels gatekeeps Bitcoin 3.
Right.
But it's not really been that critical up until this point. And Bitcoin 3 isn't a critical upgrade. And neither is solar panels really, right? Like it's nice quality of life, but it's not necessary. Intel 3 is important in some ways, but you can get away without it. But it's important for some quests. What were you going to say?
These are also not sellable in the flea market, both these items?
Correct. They are not sellable in the flea market. And what makes things slightly worse or slightly more awkward, they're also non-secure containable.
Which is interesting as well. Is that the first loot item that's not secure containable? I think. Like
probably
that's not
like
that's
loot
flagged
item.
as a barter item. You know.
I'm not sure.
It's gotta be.
Because the other stuff that can't be put in there is what, like guns, helmets, armor, and stuff like that. Magazines,
grenades,
yeah, and a whole bunch of junk. But these are I think they're the first like loose loot barter item,
right?
That is not securable. That is required for the hideout, but it's because of these 2 very special things. Now I feel like it's drawn quite a line, between people that hate it and people that quite like it. Now I saw a tweet from Airing. I know he doesn't really like it very much. I kind of don't mind it, actually, because it's sort of like, why would I go to labs otherwise? Like there's nothing to do on labs other than like there's a couple of quests where you're forced to go as part of the guide. You might want to go if you kill raiders, but most people just do that on reserve. So why else would I go? And it almost like, to me, it almost feels a little bit like a player-driven quest, right? There isn't a quest that says like, and I don't know. It's actually, I don't know, it's almost like the distinction is almost non-existent, but to me it feels different, right? It's like, it feels like I'm doing things for myself. And there's a weird thing of game design about this. And this is why I always come back and talk about like Subnautica when I refer to things like this in game design, because Subnautica is like a brilliant game, and I'm sure Portal's very similar if you actually like break it down. It's been a long time, so I can't really remember. But Subnautica is a brilliant game because the game's designed in such a way that it feels as though you're exploring everything on your own, even though it's just like the pieces are sort of laid out,
sort of like secretly pulling you
yeah,
along.
exactly, and like you can sort of get stuck, but like there's enough to go on that you feel like you did it yourself. And even in this case, like if there was, it would feel like more crappy, even though it's functionally the same thing, for Ragman to be like, you need to go to labs and bring me an MCC, or the GPS thingy. Whereas it's just like you go in the hideout and you get to a certain point, and then it's just like you need this item, and you're like, what even is this? Like it's unidentified, right? I mean, obviously, it won't be in the future, but it's unidentified, and you're like, the hell is it this thing? And then you go around, like have a look around, and it's like, oh, it only spawns on labs.
Go to the
Okay,
wiki.
well, where's it spawn? Well, the wiki doesn't really say anything. This is like actually the kind of bizarre part about it.
Dude, that's actually really interesting.
If you go far forward current converter, right, which is the one that I have,
that makes me wonder. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah. So it says like all the information about it cannot be listed for sale. One needs to be obtained to solar power. Locations: electronic spawns. And it says one can be obtained as a quest reward for, and then I assume it's a Lightkeeper task. Then you can barter for one after completing that task as well. And that's literally it. There's no screenshots. There's no loot locations. There's nothing. There's nothing on the wiki for it at all, really. And then the other one, which is the GPS thing, let's see, I think there might be one picture on this one when I last looked. So it says, cannot be put on skill containers, cannot be listed on sale on the flea. One needs to be obtained for Intel Center 3. Location, electronic spawns. And if there's a single picture of one of them on like a pile of med boxes in labs, presumably it must be, and another barter. And there's actually apparently a craft as well, but you have to complete like a load of Lightkeeper tasks too. So there are ways of avoiding it, but you have to do Lightkeeper. And that's like way harder, honestly. So it's kind of intriguing to me, honestly. Like, it's kind of intriguing. It's not that obvious. I don't know whether the wiki has been like told specifically, because I know the wiki
speculating.
Yeah, because they have a kind of agreement with BSG, right? About like,
right.
I don't know how firm it is, but like I know that there's certain things that they will and will not put up there, and certain things that BSG will and will not tolerate.
I don't think it's that like something that should be talked about, you know what I mean? Like hush hush, but I think it's like fairly common knowledge, but I could be wrong. That was why Logical stopped, because Logical used to be on the wiki team, and that was one of the issues that was coming up, is he was giving details about loots or loot spawn rates and chances and things like this, and BSG threatened to encrypt everything. I mean, this was like a couple years ago, and then that's when Logical exited and then started doing his thing and whatnot. But
you're a bit far from your mic.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, you're cutting slightly.
Yeah, just that Logical used to work for the wiki and contribute, and then he started posting spawn rate stuff, things like this, and BSG threatened to encrypt everything, and then that's when Logical went the Tarkov changes route, and then yada yada yada, and here we are.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have to look at other items and see if there's actually like stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm also not sure. So it's kind of intriguing to me, and I don't know. Like, it's a difficult one because of Labs' notorious, reputation for having cheaters and stuff, and having some of the end game items on there.
Okay.
So I mean, is there anything else?
Just one thing. There is a chance that they actually do spawn on other places.
What now? What do you think?
Yeah, I have to acknowledge that. Sorry,
there is a chance actually, because they've been messing around with spawns for stuff like LEDX and things. So there is a chance. I know like LEDX now spawn on woods and customs and all sorts of places, right? You can get them all over the place.
Yeah, I didn't want to imply that I 100% know as a fact that they only spawn on labs. I actually don't know that, but that's the hearsay, and it's just odd that the wiki doesn't have, labs. It only spawns on labs, instead of saying like it spawns in electronic spawns, which is like,
oh yeah,
You know what I mean? So I just
Yeah,
want
I
to
know what you
clarify.
mean. It's
Yeah.
a bit loosey goosey. So it could spawn somewhere else maybe, but yeah, I haven't heard of anybody getting them anywhere other than labs. And I've been playing. I basically played pretty much labs only last week.
Yeah, I saw.
Like I did some other bits as well around it because I ran out of labs cards. But I played a lot of labs last week actually, and
Mhm.
it was pretty fun. I was quite surprised, honestly. It was a surprising thing, and there was a couple. So oh my god! So the first one, okay. So I probably should talk about this, but like the first raid where we found one of these things, right? I was like in the office room, so near the cat room. It's like let's think about it. It's opposite the corridor. You know the parking button room.
Yeah.
If you just went out of that door, across the little corridor bit, and then left into that office before you get to the kind of the stairs, like on the way to cat rooms. If you go out of the parking door, cat's in front of you on the right, and like red rooms like all the way down the corridor, like all the way along. Does that make sense?
I played a little bit of labs, but I
Okay,
haven't played
okay.
it
You're
enough
not super
to.
familiar with labs. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. All
Yeah.
right. I feel like I'm getting quite good at labs now, relatively speaking. You know, like
Mhm.
considering how it was, you know, a year ago or whatever. But anyway, so for those of you who know, so then coming out of parking and you just like go across and left. But I was in the cat room and there was somebody VoIPing like really quietly, and I couldn't hear what they were saying. And so I was like, okay, this is weird. So going to investigate. Like I ran into the room and there was like a random PMC there with like nothing on him, and he was just like he was saying like, oh, don't kill me, you know, I'll give you this, and he literally drops like the current converter thing on the floor in front of me, and I was like, I just stood there and looked at him and like looked at the thing and looked at him and looked at the thing and looked at him, and I was like, dude, I wish he'd let me get it myself, like. And now I'm just, and this was like right in the middle of people getting like banned for like all sorts of stuff,
Right. Right.
like, and I was
Right.
just like, this is super weird,
Mhm.
like super sus. Like, I don't even know what's going on here. And I was like, chat, what do you think's happening here? So we shot him in the head and we took the MC, we took the FCC and left. And I was like, I don't know whether I should have just like, at the time I was kind of, because the thing is like the way that we were talking about it, we were like, he's like, I didn't go in with the guy. He was in there. Like, I have no idea who he is. I killed him and took it. It's fine in raid. You know, it spawned in that raid and I took it
Yeah.
out. I was like, you know, that was kind of the justification eventually. But I did feel a little bit just like, oh, there's like a fringe chance here that there's something weird happens and like you get flagged for a carry or something, you know, like you've spoofed into the same raid together or
Mhm.
something. I was just like my brain was like imagining these like, you know,
Right.
these sort of like fringe tail things where you get caught by the BSG like anti-cheat system for doing something completely legitimate. I was like,
Right.
oh god, like seriously, bro, like why you throw it at my feet anyway? So I was like, I killed him, and we went out, and I used it to upgrade my solar power. So then we carried on playing labs, and I felt a bit better actually afterwards because I've now found 2 more of those things, which is quite cool. And unfortunately, the GPS one I haven't been able to get yet. We've seen it once.
Really.
I've seen it once, and when I got it, and this is the thing on labs. There's some people who are just like Omega Giga Chad right on
Mhm.
that map. I got it, and I got aggressively hunted down by a guy who like chased me in a very very specific way, and then headshot me like through one of the like bush planter kind of things, and I was like, I don't know. Like I had like the wrong end of desync as well. Like he was coming down the stairwell, like out of cover. So I was, you know, exposed for way longer on his screen than on mine. And like people on labs are just completely insane. And he could probably only see my head, so he could only really have headshotted me legitimately. So I would either have not died or I died to a headshot. So I was like, I don't know. Like you just can't tell, especially as a
Yeah.
solo, you just have no idea. So that was unfortunate. But that's the only time we've seen the GPS one. So we were this close. We're this close. But other than that, it's actually been all right. And I don't know. Like it's not been that bad. I play on all EU servers. So I'm pretty much all EU. I'm actually not even sure what my region says anymore. I might even be on auto. Yeah, I'm actually just on auto EU, and it's honestly been fine. There's been a couple of like weird situations which could or could not have been hacking, or it could have been just people being good. But for the most part, the fights have seemed pretty legit, and I've killed a bunch of people on that map, and it's been feeling pretty good. It's been feeling okay. So I think based on that experience, that has made the decision to lock the container, have them on that map only, etc., feel okay based on that experience. Now, I'm sure other regions may be different, right? The EU West.
Yeah.
I don't know, and the times that I play, etc. So your mileage may vary depending on your own experience, right? But for me, it's felt okay based on this. And like, it's sad to like balance the game around cheating, right? This is the thing we always talk about RMT. It's like, you can't balance the game around RMT in the same way. It's like, can't balance the game around cheating. And it's like, it's kind of interesting having labs being the place. So I don't know. It's a hard one. It's a hard one whether they should give, because if you make it spawn on other maps, then like then it's kind of easy to access, right? It's like labs are supposed to be the special place.
Let's say it was only on interchange. Would you still have the same feeling?
No.
Why?
Because we know interchange enough that it doesn't feel as dangerous, and I don't play there all the time. Like, I don't play interchange all the time, but it's like it's one of the maps that like we know well. We know how to go in, and you find it, and then you could just avoid everybody and leave. So I don't feel like it'd be the same. Whereas like labs, it's like it's hard to get out of labs. It's like you press any button, and it's just like whichever we've got a section G, and everyone's just like, oh, that's the, and then everyone comes over. And there's like raiders everywhere and stuff. Like the map's terrifying when you don't play it that often. It's got a good feel. It's like one of the only places in Tarkov left that actually has like feeling for those people who are experienced but not like Shift W Mega Labs Chad and solo mains.
So, yeah, because it's interesting. So part of it is because you previously don't have a reason to go to labs, right?
I had no reason to go before, yeah.
Unless you were doing the guide, maybe.
Yeah, so it's the guide, and I used to go there for killing raiders, but you don't even need to do that now. You can go to reserve.
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of interesting because I can kind of see both sides. It's even more interesting because it's effectively like a pocket watch, right? Because you can't put it in your container, which is like interesting. But like this, jumping ahead a bit, what happens after you finish the quest?
What do you mean?
Like now you have no reason to go to labs.
Yeah, true. But I have all the experience, so I might go back.
So it's
because I was forced to go, So now, but now I'm like, oh, now I feel like I'm much more confident.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of weird because it's one of those things I felt like we talked about where it's like you know, in a broad sense, making money in Tarkov, you can basically go anywhere and loot anything, So you're not like forced, or like heavily incentivized to do a specific set of things at a specific place on the map, you know what I mean? Like, unless the quests kind of do that, but they're very. I marked the yellow minibuses on interchange. I never need to be here ever again in my life. You know what I mean? Which is unfortunate because I really like. That's part of the reason why I like some of the early game is because those quests you get to like fight in places that you almost never get to fight in otherwise. So yeah, I can kind of see why there is some appeal to it because it's you. If you want to do this thing, you have to go to labs. It's almost like BSG saying, guys, play our map. It's really good. We promise you'll like it. Just you have. Okay, fine. You have to go here now if you want to progress in the game. It's like,
yeah.
But the unfortunate thing is like afterwards, you know what I mean. You don't really have a reason to go there anymore. I mean, the loot's already crap from what I've heard, but I don't know. Part of me, it's just like it kind of comes back to that thing. It's like why I like the Rust, or I think even Daisy has a bit of this where certain parts of the map just have like better loot. And obviously Tarkov has many maps, but in the like certain locations, right? There's like different reasons to go. If you want to do the big oil rig run on Rust, first you gotta have fuel, or you gotta have a way to like get to the rig. You need either a helicopter, a boat, a diving suit, a oxygen tank, flippers. You could swim out there. Is it gonna be cold at night? You're gonna die from cold. Okay, it's like you gotta solve that problem. Then you gotta like have the problem like how are you gonna kill the scientists on board? And then you gotta like, oh well, there's like these rooms that have like loot in them, and if I want to loot them, I gotta have the red card, the blue card, the key card. Where do I get the red card? Red card's in the really high end top tier area. It's only at these locations. It spawns, did it spawn there? You gotta get the green card. Oh, I need a fuse. There's like all these little mini things you gotta do to get there, and then you gotta meet the requirements. And it's I like that, that the whole like, and it's not like you done it. Never have to do that again. It's like, no, I can go back and repeat it and do it and still get the rewards and I reap the rewards. It's yeah. I wish there was some of that in Tarkov, because it really does make the whole linear progression very repetitive, and then once you do the thing, then it's kind of like, well, now what?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. It's hard to disagree with you. Hard to disagree with you on that, but yeah. I mean, it's been fun. It's been interesting so far. The AK 101 has been doing work, man. The AK 101. I was actually crafting 995 M995, and you like topping that over the top of 855A1. It feels really good. Feels really, really good. It's kind of like cool. I quite like that, because like it's not something you've ever had to do before. It's like, think about what ammo you're going to craft. Like, I'm going to go to the labs. Okay, so I'm going to buy my cards before. I'm going to craft a 995. I'm going to stack that like 10 and 20 so that I don't run out too quick. Then I'm going to go to the labs and like fight these geared players wearing like class 5 usually, and kill them with 995 because it will do. And it feels like, I don't know, it feels like I've, what Tarkov, as you say, misses out on a lot of that like build up, and this is sort of the first time that I've had more of that than normal.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
Buy everything from the traders and just
go.
It's
previously,
like there's a bit of prep.
Yeah, exactly. You had to decide what you want to craft, because you couldn't buy it. You could try to find it, but let's be honest, crafting's just the easier solution, right? And you can only craft one thing. There's only so much. Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Yeah. So it's been interesting. It's been interesting. It has like shown up a few things about like my playstyle and stuff that especially recently. I don't know. I feel I need to practice so much, like going back to the headshot meta. I don't know. There's something about I'm just like failing on so many fights, just like trying to brute force through people with like the thorax like center of mass with so many different rounds.
Dude.
And it's just like, it's just rough, right? The number of times I just get headshot by someone, and I'm like, man, I just need to practice headshotting more and like do right crosshair position. Like the game feels kind of weird right now. It's like audio is changing, so that's kind of like throwing people off a little bit. Like the front to back is now a lot better than it was with the binaural change that they made, which is good. But I feel that maybe it's just getting used to it, but I feel the distancing is either too flat, not graduated enough. I'm not sure. Like I'm running around factory, right? And I know factory like the back of my hand. And I'm finding it really hard to figure out where the scav actually is. Like, is he beyond the next wall? Like the up down is completely messed up. So if you're in the center section, whether they're on the sky bridge or whether they're in the down, underground, or like around that corner or on top of this thing, like it's just I find it so hard to figure out where the scavs actually are. Like I know which direction they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell if they're front or back, that's fine. But like how far away they are, I just cannot grasp that right now. And then I also feel that like I'm fighting with desync really well. It's an unfortunate feature of the game, and you just have to accept that if you want to play well. And there's lots of fights where it's kind of been somebody is clearly actually probably more skilled than me, but because of the way that I've managed to get them like stuck next to a wall or something, and then I can appear around the corner and kill them. That's like the literally been the deciding factor in a lot of fights, because you get whatever it is, 300 milliseconds or something on the other person to just pump them full of lead before they get to see you on their screen. It's an unfortunate consequence of the game, but you have to use it if you want to. If you want to play on like labs, people try pretty hard on labs, right? So if you really, if you want to eke out every advantage, you have to use it. So I think like if I can nail the headshot thing and like change my crosshair position a bit, I feel like I'd be really strong. Like I'm losing some really stupid fights because of it. But it's feeling okay otherwise. It's feeling okay. Yeah. It's feeling alright. Just need to deliberately work on that. I keep saying it, and then I forget to work on it, and then I get into a fight, and then my muscle memory takes over, and then I get like 250 damage dealt to body, 250 damage dealt to like armor, and I'm like, no, again, like god damn it, and I get killed by like a singular round of BP or something, even though like I had all the desync in the world to kill the guy, and he just goes boop, and it's like so frustrating.
You know what you could do? Something that would help you is you could use a gun that requires basically only headshots to be able to win. Something that was like you couldn't spray, you had to like only single tap. Maybe it took 9mm. Okay, it's the STM. All right.
That's it.
No, what you could do for real though, maybe like a vector would help, because it's like something that's like ideally you want something that's low recoil, but like you have to get the headshots. That's the
not a bad idea. And we were talking about it today a little bit. Is SP193 and the P90 stacked over the top of like L191? That can be okay.
It's tough because then you get into the spot where, I mean, fortunately, I don't think there's a perfect solution, but then you get in the spot where it's like, okay, you have to hit them in the face, because if you hit their helmet, it's just like gets absorbed, which is like so annoying. It's like, dude.
Well, I think with 193, I think you're probably okay, because it's like it depends. If they were class 4, then like
it's their class 4. It's no dice.
I might go back to MP7, honestly. Like I've been using MP7 a bit today, and it's the beast. But I just keep going like FMJ into class 5 armor into your thorax. Stop doing that.
Yeah. No, it's tough, man. It's tough.
I think it's the thing is like people use class 4 for so long that you get so used to like outclassing their armor. Like I get to 5-6A1 and I just get used to just like 3-tapping people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then everyone starts using class 5, especially when you go to a map like Labs. And you're just like, I'm just going to, hold on. This took 6 shots and he's still not dead, because it's like 1 went in the arm, 1 went in the stomach, 2 went into the thorax. And then like they both got absorbed because it was only 40 pen and like et cetera.
Something that you could try too is like, you have to like actively be thinking about it. And then it's like weird because once you're in the fight, then like you remember that, I'm supposed to be going for headshots. And then like, instead of like reacting or like reflexively, just, not really thinking, just like your focus is on killing the guy. Then you start like become conscious. And this is all happening in like milliseconds. And then you're like actively trying to aim at his head. It's just like such a weird out of body experience in a way.
It's like you have to get it into muscle memory by like,
for sure.
You probably take a few steps back, right? You start like dying more because you're trying to manually control the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes more natural and then you get better at it,
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I think that's the main thing I need to fix. Like other than that, like there's been a load of cool fights on labs I've had. There was a disgusting one where I just like burst out from around the corner and just like mowed down a duo like with 1 mag out of the AK-101. And one guy had an AXMC for whatever reason. I think they were just memeing with like 2 rounds of AP. And the other guy had some like completely juiced. It was either an SR or like an M1A or something like that. It was just like burst out and just killed both of them. Like both like level 58 or something. I think like a level 58 duo. I was like, hell's yeah. And I've had like a bunch of fights against like 3-mans and things where like I might kill one and then I get killed by the other 2. But like I feel like I'm like moving well and like I don't die instantly and I'm like popping up in unexpected places and like actually having fun. This is the thing. Like as long as I'm having fights, I don't really mind. If I die, then like so be it, right? But if I'm having fights with people and I'm like moving, I hear their nade and I push. There was actually one amazing one where like the guy I just heard just like immediate just like face push this guy and just mowed straight through him like a bulldozer because he's on his own and he had a grenade out. It's like it's just so tough. You have to really be careful. So no, it's cool. It's like fun playing with confidence on labs. I've like never really done that before. You know what did really help was the weird scav event. Where you could just like scav into labs. Was it last wipe or the wipe before? I can't remember.
So yeah, I think it was last wipe. Yeah.
And that's where I learned a lot of just like the general combat in labs because I was like, ultra end game, like you have all the money in the world kind of thing at the end of the wipe and like spending it because whatever, and was going around with the MCX with like 300 blackout. and like, and there was tons of scavs there too. So the whole map was like super chaos and like really fun. So there's like drum mags of like 300 blackout just like mowing scavs down in the cafeteria and stuff. Like it was hilarious. And I really enjoyed it. And that really helped because it was, you never really normally get to experience just like running around labs. Like if you do that, you normally just die, you know? And in that experience, I've become a bit more confident being able to actually do that. So a lot of the time I'll like sprint off spawn, like stuff I've never done before in labs, you know, it's like, oh, and I meet these people here on this time. Okay, and then the next time I meet these people here. And like you slowly, it's like any other map, except it's got that gatekeepy card and it's expensive and you expect to die when you go in, right? So, you know, I'm definitely not the wealthiest I've ever been this wipe. You know, I'm fluctuating between 5 mil and 8 mil or whatever. But I did actually get worried the other day because I went down to, I bought something as well. I went down to like 4 mil or something.
Oh, you're fine. Stop it.
I was like, if I just keep going with this, like I'm actually going to end up at 0. So, and I was like, I do actually want, you know, now that I found one of these MCC things, I like do actually want to get the solar power going. You know, I'm going to have to buy that, and I'm going to have to buy the cards when the Bitcoin farm comes through. So I was like, maybe it's time to do more scav on streets or something. I don't know, but anyway, it's been interesting. I think I don't know. I feel like the game feels okay in the times that I'm playing.
Yeah, sounds like you're having a good time. It sounds like fun, honestly.
I play in a pretty low pop time. I play like EU afternoon, so it's. Yeah. Oh, when is it for you? When you come in? Because it's like 1 until 4ish, so it's like 9. Is it for you? 8. Yeah, it's 8. It's like 8 until 11, like EST. So it's pretty early. It's pretty like.
Oh yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, sorry, I was thinking back.
Which probably helps, right?
Yeah, like usually in the morning. Yeah,
it was definitely like more. It was busier when I used to play, when I used to do the evening streams, and I was playing like 8 till 11. You know, because then it's like 5 to 8 EST. So it's a lot busier. Whereas now I'm playing like in the morning for the US. So I think that makes a big difference, honestly. I do think it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Could be.
Yeah. Right. Morality.
Who needs it? Overrated, I say. No, so I was telling Giga, I was making a post on the Nikita AMA that he made, and I was gonna talk about Scav Karma because I've always had like this begrudgance towards Scav Karma. You know, I miss the old days, and I am you know, regretful that I don't know if that's the right word, but we never really got to play with no Scav Karma and VoIP, you know? And having played my fair share of Rust, a little bit of DayZ, you know, having those like interactions with people who you're both sort of like sussing each other out, you know? It's like, because that's honestly, that's what I like so much about vanilla DayZ. I played a little bit of modded DayZ recently, and it was like the Tarkov version of DayZ on like the standard map, and they had like, you know, labs cards that would like you unlock buildings and the alarm goes off and there's loot. I mean, it wasn't for me. Like there's even more advanced versions where they got like literally Tarkov running sound effects are replaced with the running sound effects on DayZ. They got like the loot is like rubles and bitcoins and tetrises. Like it's so funny, man. But it's honestly just like such a testament to, you know, Tarkov's success. Is like, you know, DayZ's putting in these like Tarkov mods basically. So yeah, it wasn't really for me because it was like, it's already a big map. We're playing on the I think it's called Chernobyl, whatever.
Yeah, it's the first one.
Yeah, it's a really big map, dude. There's like 100, maybe like 120 people at max on the server. Like you rarely see anyone. It's literally a PvP. You load in, you go to the trading post, you open up the vending machines. They got a menu. You buy stuff with the cash that you get. You sell stuff. It's, you know, it's literally PvP centric, but it's just like you don't see people that often. And then you know, the maps are really big. The geared guys, they got like 50 cal suppressed, you know, ACMX sniper shoulder mounted things. It's just like you just get one tap from Jupiter. It's anyway, it's not really for me. I like vanilla DayZ more, but I understand that that's like, dude, you play 2 hours in that game and you realize like I just spent 2 hours looking for food and dying twice now and not seeing a single soul. It's kind of the same experience, but I do like it when you do get to meet someone and it's like, sometimes you just get shot, sometimes you meet a friend, it's cool. I dig that. So anyways, that was kind of my grievance for Scav, and I was like, hey Nikita, are you guys, my first question was like, how do you guys feel about Scav Karma? Like, are you guys happy with where it's at? Because I know previously they talked about they want to do PMC Karma, but they don't know how. And they specifically were like, hey, if you guys know how, let us know. So then I started, writing. I was like, okay, here's the problems. I wish I had saved, but and then I was going somewhere, and then I quickly realized, I got to the point where it's like, okay, so what you need to do, step one, you need to, oh fuck, well that won't work. It's like, I don't want you to remove it, necessarily. Like, I like the idea, but then like, how do you, some people suggested that you reward people for bad behavior. Okay. Because that was another question I had, was like, is the goal of Scav Karma to incentivize people to do these things that you deem good behavior? And is that the goal? Like, you want people to play exactly like this as scavs, And if that's the goal, fine. It's just, I'm not really sure if that is the goal. So yeah, I quickly realized, like, man, this really isn't a simple thing, And thinking of like, Rust again, referencing Rust. I know, shocker, but they don't have a karma system, and because it's so different in how it's set up, your actions in the Rust universe, like the server, carry weight. If me and my neighbor are enemies and he pisses me off, and then for the next 2 hours I decide to continually piss him off, like whatever I can, like he's trying to leave his base, I'm sitting there camping him, he's coming back to his base, I'm sitting there waiting for him, he's trying to like go mess off somewhere, I spray paint his base, whatever, you know what I mean? I'm just like constantly pestering. That carries weight within the server, because like maybe he makes some friends and now you're like the main enemy. You guys are bickering, you could resolve that. Like there's like such a importance on, you don't necessarily want to like, you almost like want to be friendly with your neighbors when you're close by, but then like when you're not, it's just like free game. But like you both don't want to waste your time, getting one up on the other, because there's much more productive things to do. It's really neat like that. And there's also like this aspect, like if you're just like a toxic person, right? That's just like fuel for people, that you're toxic to get revenge on you, which I really love. That's like one of my favorite things about like the Rust YouTube space, is they'll have like, I got revenge on the most toxic clan ever. That's like the title, and it's like the Rust guy holding a skull or something. I love those videos, man, because Welland's kind of classic for stuff like that as well. And yeah, Tarkov really doesn't have that flexibility, but you can have the world still react around you with NPCs, kind of like how it does now. If you shoot a scav, other scavs are like, oh shit, that's a bad guy, let me shoot at him,
Yeah.
But it doesn't carry over. Well, it can carry over next raid, but it's a little, it's almost like they forgot that you murdered their brother, and the next time you go back to customs, you know what I mean? It's weird. And so I realized, like, okay, there's a problem here, because then if you say, okay, we're going to reward good behavior and bad behavior, well, then you're kind of like, nothing really matters, but you get to like choose a path, and it becomes much more cut and dry, light side versus dark side. Which I'm playing the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Did you ever play that game?
I played it a little bit. I've not played it I haven't finished it, but I've played a little bit of it, yeah.
Okay. Great game, but good luck playing the first one in 2023, dude.
It was bad playing it in like 2015 or something when I played it.
Oh yeah, that's pretty bad as well. Yeah, the support for it is like dog. I mean, it's an old game, and it's like I think it's like 2006, maybe 2004, like the first one, because they came out with
Old.
a sequel, and that one was like heavily rushed development, tons of like incomplete features. I mean, anyway, so I'm playing the second one now.
It came July 2003. Look at
Yeah,
that.
dude, that's yeah. But it. I remember playing both of them in my childhood, and I was like, dude, these are great games. I have fond memories, and they have a morality system. And that was one of the games that came up as like a classic example, and I didn't know it was made by BioWare, but they're like the guys that made Mass Effect series. Um, God, what was the other game they're known for? But they're kind of like classic for that morality system,
Yeah,
and whatnot. Um, but it's kind of a shame because the game's very like, it's an RPG, and it's very like black and white, and like what's light side and what's dark side. It's like one of the examples was I was playing, and there's like these two organizations. One's like the tree huggers, and the other one's like Big Corpo. Okay. And the tree huggers want your help because they want to like save the planet and then restore the life, and stop this terraforming and whatever. Okay, they're obviously the light side choice, right? But then you go to the Corpo guys, and they kind of like hint that like, oh, we want to, this is going to be good for humanity, advancing technology. Like, it's really important that we put resources back into the communities. I was like, oh, this is kind of an interesting dilemma, right? But then it's like, and then it kind of hints as like they're evil. It's like, yeah, we will do anything to like crush the opposition. They like throw in like these obvious like flags, like, okay, this is definitely the evil choice, and it's kind of like not interesting because then you're left with, do I want to be good or do I want to be bad? And the bad is like comically villainous, like I will devour souls. Yes, my lord. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not like interesting. And that's also what made Thanos from the Avengers Infinity War.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
two different movies. I think it's Infinity War. A really great character, because I watched, like I said, I watched a fair share of videos, but people were complaining previously that their villains were not very good. It's like, oh, I'm the bad guy, I'm going to destroy the world, you have to stop me. It's just like comically evil, right? But then Thanos was a much more like deep, interesting character, because like you could see his motivations, you could like kind of see where he's coming from. I mean, you may not agree with it, but you could like understand, like relate to him a bit more, and that was like the really fun thing about, I think that's part of the reason why that movie did so well. I mean, I really like the first one compared to the second one, but so
I haven't seen the second one. I only saw the first one.
Oh really? Yeah, because it's funny because the second one actually did better in the box office. Like
oh really?
Yeah. Which maybe it's because the first one did so well, like critically, that people were like, oh, well, let's go see the second one now, because the first one, I don't know. But nonetheless, yeah. So there's other games too, like Fallout New Vegas, where they have factions, and this is where I was like, okay, now I might be getting somewhere, because they got what you smiling at?
Sorry. Oh, Chad's making me laugh. I couldn't hold it in. Because you're talking about how he's like, a deep and interesting character, and you can see his motivations, even if you don't always agree. And CZ just said, like, Church is describing Shudderville.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh my god, I couldn't hold it in. That was too funny. Oh man, I was like smirking in the background on my cam. Oh man, I'm sorry.
That's funny. No, you're good. You're good.
Oh god, I just had to get that out.
So I killed it. So I
that was
killed
too good. That was too good.
Yeah.
But yes. Okay, where were we?
Fallout New Vegas. So yeah, they got different factions there, and you can, based off your, quest you do, decision making, you gain reputation with certain factions. But it's like, it's really complicated, because the parameters are different for each one. You know, let's say you get 2 faction points for the blogs or whatever.
Right.
But you also get 5 faction points for Zulu warriors. The requirements to be like good with the faction for like the blogs may be like 2 to 5, you know, and that's their they got like different tiers. Like I guess it's like their tier 1, you know, like they're kind of cool with you, and then like if you're really cool with them, you got to be down here. But if you're down here, then like these other guys hate you. You know what I mean? So there's like this like chart basically. It's interesting. So I was like, man, what if they did something like that in Tarkov, where you had different scav factions, and based off what you did or how you behaved in the realm of Tarkov, it would affect those factions, and different things, the world react to that standing with those different factions. So
That's
maybe
cool.
like, yeah, I mean, it's like, how do you actually like conceptually it sounds great, but how do you actually apply it on the paper? Like, how do you track people's behaviors?
Actions,
How do you differentiate my faction from your faction? You know, there's a lot of like logistic problems here that makes it, you know, is it simpler just to go back to, you know, I almost call it like multiplayer social justice, where you just have no karma system. It's like you are the judge, jury, and executor. If you want to be a piece of shit asshole, you be a piece of shit asshole. You know, no one's stopping you. There is no like, I mean, server admins, you know, but like a lot of powers in the player. You know, if you want to be the nice, loving guy, it's like, hey, you know, that's, you play how you want to. You know, I like, part of me kind of likes that as well. So I don't know. Yeah, it was just something that like I've been kind of mulling over. I asked some people in Discord. They shared me a couple games, and
because that's kind of the issue. That's Tarkov's issue, though. Coming back to it, is that because you can't really have the players be the adjudicator, because like you have no history on anybody, you never meet the same person again, and even if you do, you just don't know who they are, and that's part of the problem. So you need some way of like identifying what people have done without interacting with them somehow. If you're going to keep the raid system, you know, I almost kind of like the idea of. I'm sort of jumping around topics, but I kind of like the idea of just having like different areas of the map, or different maps with different bits of it, having like, you know, different scavs control different areas of the map. You could almost have that sort of like change dynamically as time goes on. There could almost be like a sub game underneath. You know, you like sign up for one of the factions, and you have to like go and fight for those factions, and it actually changes stuff on the, you know, in the world or whatever. You know, there's like enough if you like pit 2 of the factions against each other, and you know, they like, if enough of them win, then that, you know, that area of that map now becomes, you know, that other faction or whatever. I don't know, just like stuff like that. But I mean, how do you actually execute on that stuff? That's the issue, isn't it? It's how do you come up with some system that actually makes sense? You know, you might have like a really bloodthirsty faction, or one that's sort of prioritizing loot, or one that's, you know,
because you have to have certain behaviors that the faction deems both good and bad, which I think is kind of unfortunate, because I think the more interesting stuff is like the morally gray area. And maybe you could have a faction that like that's their thing, is like these morally gray stuff. You know, because it's really unfortunate that someone could be scavenging next to me, and they could be like practicing what I would consider like bad scav manners, right? Let's say, you know, I'm walking up to the GPU to loot, and then he just like cuts me off and loots it and goes to the next loot spot. I'm like, well, fuck, I just gotta, like, I'm not gonna beat this guy. I just gotta go turn around and loot somewhere else. You know what I mean? It's like, but if I ever to kill him, it's like, oh, I'm the bad guy. You know, I'm the bad guy now. You know what I mean? There's just like, there's these little things where it's like the guy shoots at me but misses, but if I shoot him and kill him, I'm the bad guy. You know?
Yeah, that's definitely the worst one.
Yeah,
that's definitely the worst. I do love the thought process of just like, you know, the man stole my apple juice and I shot him, but like I'm the bad guy, right? So that you just kill a man over a juice or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of thing is annoying. The whole like getting shot at and then not being able to shoot back. It's like there's certain elements of the system that are painful, but it's exactly that. It's like, how do you give people kind of equal choices that feel like, you feel sort of, I don't know. You kind of want to go one of two ways, I feel. You either want to kind of give people difficult choices to choose between, yeah, there's pros to being good and there's pros to being bad, and there's pros and cons to both sides. Or you want to go down a different route, which is, I think, is utilized in some games, which is where you have these difficult choices to make, and some, it's like the easy choice versus the hard choice. And if you make the easy choice, like, you don't see it straight away, but eventually you end up down like a dark path. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the unintended consequences of, like, choosing the easy route means that you end up in a bad place, which is kind of like, that's kind of its own interesting thing. Like, you imagine people being like, "Oh, dude, I don't know why you're bothering with all those quests. I just do the ones where I have to, like, go and kill a load of people and it's fine." And you end up sort of in some kind of like horrible subculture where, like, you're in debt to some awful the cult network or whatever, and you get kneecapped if you don't deliver them certain items or whatever. It'd be quite like, it's just like, there's ways of doing it, but yeah, it'd be cool. I think it's very surface level right now, and as you said, there's no two sides to it. It's just like, be a good scav or you're going to get punished. And as you said at the start, it depends on what you think or what the goal is supposed to be. I mean, I don't know what their goal is with Scav Karma, really, and it's very hard to tell based on the system that we have. But if I was going to make up a goal for it, I feel like my goal would be to have Scavs team up to make the experience more engaging for PMCs, or more kind of more random for PMCs, to have teams of like Scavs grouping up, hunting PMCs down. Because that's kind of what I kind of like that about Scavs. That's what I've always enjoyed, like fighting an uneven battle against a player that doesn't care as much about their loadout or whatever. It's like, it's a throwaway loadout, but it adds more challenge for the PMCs who are kind of in there. You've got people playing the bad guy, basically. You've like incentivized people to play the baddie for you, which is cool. So you don't have to have AI play the baddie for the most part. I mean, obviously we have that, but it's what I've always liked about the Scav system. So having Scavs group up to go and deliver the Tarkov experience to the PMCs is sort of the goal, in my opinion. That's purely my opinion.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
I don't know what their actual goal is. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's hard to say for sure. I still like that idea about having the different scav factions and certain locations of the map, and then like there's it changes, like, maybe if one faction becomes the most powerful faction, then like they're everywhere, and now you're in a different faction, and it's like, you gotta fight for your faction, and like it could be interesting.
And it could kind of change the environment somehow. I mean, even just the interactions maybe you have with them as PMC, and you, like, as a PMC, you'd be incentivized to kind of like, even if you don't play Scav that much, you'd have to kind of keep a track on somehow. I don't know how you do this.
You could,
maybe in the intel center or so, you'd have to keep a track of like what was actually happening in the the Scav faction war or whatever it is. So who's got control of what, to like figure out where you need to go, or like whether it's going to impede or help your progress.
You could even have a faction that like actively works with the PMCs, or maybe one PMC faction, which would be interesting. They're like, the guys who work with
friends, or something. Or like, it's just like the opportunistics, right? There's like guys who work with friends, they work where they do the scav case. Like, there's obviously scavs that work with PMCs because the scav case is that mechanism, and that's kind of through fence as well as a network. So there could be a wide range of like super anti-PMC hostile scav faction through to the ones that tolerate you and basically work with you to opportunistically get by themselves. And there could be a wide range of it. And then you could then like distinguish it, right? Because they could almost have like a scav uniform for the different factions.
Yeah, I think you could do something like that with like the base clothes, right?
Yeah.
Which
or like
could be
an
interesting.
armband or something, some determining marker of like, oh, they're part of this clan or they're part of this clan. It'd be kind of cool. It'd be kind of cool.
You also talked about unforeseen consequences, essentially.
Mm.
And that was another thing that kept coming up, is sometimes the morality systems would, like you would like, either you help this guy who's getting robbed and then you get good points, right? That's your reward. Or you kill this guy that's getting robbed and take the money yourself. You get bad points, but you also get the money. It was almost like there was this discussion about how sometimes it becomes less about sort of like questioning, getting the player to like challenging, not challenging, but like, poking at their moral intellectually and get them to think about these deeper things. Instead it was more about, okay, what's the thing, what's the system I can use, like the min-maxers, right? Like, okay, obviously this is the correct choice because it's going to give me the most benefit, you know what I mean? So like I also think you kind of want to, make it so that way it's not quite like that as much as possible, because then it just like everyone chooses X. You know what I mean? Like a simple example would be if they had like bad scav got rewards and then good scav got rewards. Well, if bad's like better than good, then everyone's just gonna do, the mass majority is gonna do bad. You know what I mean? There's more incentive to do bad things. So it's a really interesting. It's such a niche thing. Like there's some games that are like almost like purely centered around this. Like even Undertale's kind of around this idea where the correct way to play the game is to be like a pacifist. That's like the good ending, but like everything in the game is kind of like there's like a combat system. You kind of like, it's much harder to like do the good things. It's easier to just like kill them. You can see in the dialogue and the stuff that like they're crying, like they don't like it when they get hurt. You know what I mean? And they have these reasons why. Like it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of The Witcher as well.
Mm.
Yeah, good games and lots of interesting choices and like moral dilemmas. Do you let the baddie go, or like do you go and like get revenge and like all of this stuff? And it's complicated and it affects the following games and things, which is like actually super cool. Like The Witcher's a really good game. I actually need to finish The Witcher 3. Like I never finished it. I got most of the way through and came to a natural pause. I got distracted and then just like never went back.
Yeah,
like,
I
really
hate it when that happens.
It's such a good game, dude. But yeah, that was awesome. But it reminds me of that. The thing is, it's so hard to do well. It's so hard to do well.
Yeah. I really like the faction idea, because then it kind of naturally fits into the PMC faction idea as well. Like you could have Bear, USEC, and then maybe like a third faction, so to speak. I guess you'd have to choose your faction at the beginning for PMC, but
yeah,
nonetheless, it's I could see something like, because it would be kind of lame if it's essentially just teams where it's Bear versus USEC. Like I think it would be more interesting if like you had inner conflict between the bears. Like bears, some bears had this ideology about this thing, about Tarkov. Some wanted to just get the blue ice or nuclear weapons and blow it all up. You know what I mean? They're the doomsday version. Some are like, hey guys, the USECs are kind of chill. Like I'm gonna be honest, like they're not that bad. Whereas the other guys are like heresy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like in the raid series, like the Bear and the USEC work together.
Yeah.
Right? So there's scope for that in the lore as well. Yeah, it'd be interesting. It'd be cool. I'd like to see a lot more of that. And then if you do work together, then there's loads of ways of doing it. We talked before about this kind of thing, but like just a random one that comes to mind is what we talked about previously, where it's like, yeah, if you work together and you're in the same faction or whatever, then like maybe there's some way of sharing intel or something so that you know that someone else from your faction's on the map and you can like radio to them because you're given the special frequency code or something like that, so you can speak to them or at least like know where they spawn or something. I don't know, something along those lines. So there's more interaction and it gives you a bit of history that already starts you off on the right footing, right? It's just like, there's somebody from your own faction in the raid. There's somebody from, the opposing faction who's like hardline anti you in the raid. And it kind of like gives a bit of like background to like what you're doing there, as opposed to just like, oh, I'm spawning here again for the 10,000th time, and there's someone there and there and there. That's kind of how a Tarkov raid begins. So I'd like that, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to implement it properly. I feel for you, especially like thinking about it all, and then coming to the paper and just being like, how do I write this down in a way that actually makes sense? And there's so many good ideas, but like how to knit it all together in a seamless way is like it's a big job and it's a hard one.
Yeah, but this was good. I like to talk about it because it's very. I'm on this whole kick now. I'm watching like like writing stuff, I guess you could say, like movies and things.
Okay.
Star Wars was like, one that comes up, and then now I'm like watching some of the Zack Snyder films, which are like interesting, mostly bad, but it's interesting because you take like a classic IP like Superman, and then the way he tells the story, it's like, well, Superman kind of killed like a bunch of people, like when trying to fight the baddie, and then like you want us to care about these 3 people that he's the baddie's trying to kill at the end, when he previously like smashed bajillion of buildings to kill the baddie, to damage the baddie, and like, what about those people in there? It's just it's fun.
Interesting stuff.
Yep. All right, well, I think that wraps up the ScavTalk for this week, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'll go ahead and upload this as soon as possible. I'll be here Monday night-ish or Tuesday morning for the other half of the world. And yeah, with that, catch you all next week.
Catch you later.